Ask me what I think of Brock Purdy.
What do you think of Brock Purdy?
He's pretty good. He's good. Good quarterback. Okay, now, is he an MVP? Well, honestly, then we've got to start parsing things like we always do. And I'll just go back to the Warriors. When the Warriors had Curry, Durant, and then to a lesser degree, Clay and Draymond, neither of those guys was going to win the MVP. How were you going to differentiate between Durant and Curry in terms of value? You had to almost throw them both out. So I do think when you're looking at the Niners, I do think that, yes, you've got to take into consideration that he's playing on a great team. Doesn't diminish what he's doing, but it does, it means something that he's in a great position. If, when Jimmy Garoppolo and the Niners were 8-0, was he in the MVP discussion? Probably should have been, right? But couldn't you make a case Garoppolo would have been more of an MVP because he had less to work with? I mean, who's the MVP of the Niners? McCaffrey or Purdy?
I'd say it's Brock Purdy.
Okay, but it's close, right?
Plays a more important position, but that's kind of the point, though.
True.
It's like the fact that you're even considering that, to me, strips him of the possibility. Like,
I agree,
if you say,
that's not right.
All right, who's the best player on the Kansas City Chiefs?
Right.
It's Patrick Mahomes.
Right.
Who's the best player on the Philadelphia Eagles? It's Jalen Hurts.
Right.
Who's the best player on, well, I guess he's out now, but who's the best player on the Cincinnati Bengals? Joe Burrow. Who's the best player on the Bills? Josh Allen. Best player on the 49ers? You got to think about it. Now, I would still say it's Brock Purdy, especially after a game like yesterday in which he showed that, McCaffrey was fine. He did, 20 carries, 70 yards, scored the first touchdown, set the tone. He's the ultimate safety blanket. But when Brock Purdy's got a Brandon Ayuk, who I think deserves a lot of attention, when he's got a George Kittle, when he's got a Deebo Samuel, when he's got a defense that at least showed itself yesterday to be able to close a football game, then yeah, Brock Purdy is your best player and can show that he's one of the best quarterbacks in this league. But I think it's a little unfair to immediately start calling for MVP attention for Brock Purdy, because with that comes detractors, comes expectation, comes things that quite frankly do not matter to Brock Purdy and the 49ers, because it doesn't, they aren't in it for individual accolades, I don't think. Well,
that's the thing. Who cares if Purdy wins the MVP or not, or even if he's in the discussion? That'll figure itself out when they finish 13-4 or 14-3 or 12-5 or whatever. To me, the question is, can the 49ers win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy at quarterback? And I defy anybody to say, no, they can't. That's where I'm at right now. He's done enough, more than enough in the past year to allow a 49er fan to realistically say he can be our quarterback and we can win the Super Bowl. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but how can you, and if you're out there, 888-957-9570, although I think it's kind of more of a troll, how can you look at Brock Purdy and say, yeah, they can't get it done with Brock Purdy? There's no way you can say that at this point, right? No way. Doesn't mean you're going to guarantee that they're winning the Super Bowl, but they could win a Super Bowl with Brock Purdy, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
I do too.
If everyone's healthy, I mean, why can't they? And
I remember back at the beginning of the year, you think the 49ers are going to win the Super Bowl? No, I don't. Why not, Steiny? Well, I just think it's unrealistic, or it's you're asking a lot of Brock Purdy in his second year. Forget the 7th round pick. I don't even care about that. A second-year quarterback to lead a team to a Super Bowl who only played half the season before. That to me sounds like a monster challenge. It's one that I'd say, boy, that's going to be tough to overcome. But now they're 7-3, and I see the way he plays. Like, he's got a shot. Okay. They got a shot. Of course they do.
Then let me ask you this.
Yeah.
After 10 games, 7-3, do you feel better about the 49ers Super Bowl chances right now than when you did at the beginning of the season, or than you did at the beginning of the year? Because
that's a great question.
You just said
that's a great question.
That, yeah, they got a chance. I think they're going to be in the mix, yada, yada. I think you had them at 11 wins, whatever the total may be. Like, they're going to be a good team. They're going to be in playoff contention. They're going to give themselves a chance to win the Super Bowl. So with the way that Brock Purdy has played through 10 games, he's leading the league in quarterback rating, QBR, net yards per attempt. Every analytic you want to throw under the sun, Brock Purdy is leading. Do you feel better now than you did at the beginning of the year about their Super Bowl chances?
I think I feel the exact same. And I'll tell you why is I think when the season started, it was Philly, the 49ers, and Dallas. Okay, the Lions are out there. The AFC is Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati. Those, to me, were the top 6, 7, 8 teams. I think after 10 games, the San Francisco 49ers are still absolutely one of the best 6 or 8 teams, and now even the Bengals are in a little bit of trouble. A little bit. Yeah, well, they're done. You would think. Yeah. But the thing with Brock Purdy is, and the San Francisco 49ers, is they're 7-3. They're 7-3. But what does the 3-game losing streak mean to you? So in other words, it's the beginning of the year, and we say, okay, like my feeling was, top 5 or 6 team right here, and they got as much of a shot as any of the really good teams. Then they go 5-0, and I'm like, man, they're pretty good. Then they lose 3 in a row, and I'm like, I wasn't like, now they stink, but I was like, maybe they aren't the dominant team we thought. Now they've won 2, and I feel like, okay, they're 7-3. That's about right. That's a damn good record. I feel like I feel the same in terms of their Super Bowl chances, and they got a shot. I think they have these, to me, you still got to give it to the Eagles. Just say they're going to have to beat the Eagles at some point, right? They can't lose to the Eagles in a couple weeks, probably, and then beat them in the postseason. I mean, maybe they could, but
well, it means you'd have to go on the road, which is why yesterday is significant from the victory perspective, because you closed the gap with Philadelphia.
Right.
You set up a Week 13 matchup if you, assuming you go win on Thursday in Seattle, to where the 1 seed is still in play. And that's something we, at 5-3, were dismissing. So yesterday, the win against the Buccaneers, from a grand scheme of things, is important. It also puts you back in first place in the NFC West. If you win this week in Seattle, you pretty much all but guarantee you're going to win the division. You're going to have a home game in the playoffs. All those things are significant. But if I'm coming from your perspective and I'm saying that at the beginning of this year, the 49ers got a solid chance. I think they're probably the second best team. If someone makes a huge leap in the NFC, they could be the third, but they're definitively right now the second best team.
All right.
If I'm looking at it from that perspective, then I don't see how you couldn't feel better about the 49ers Super Bowl chances right now. Because Brock Purdy, even though he didn't lose a game last year, and the only game he lost in the playoffs was because of injury or got injured, we also didn't, I don't think we knew enough about him then. And the only thing we don't know now is how he'll deliver in the biggest of games, because that opportunity was stripped from him last season. Even though he won 2 games, he was good. But I think almost the consistency with which he's played in the regular season does affirm my belief that they're contenders, and it makes me feel better about where they're at, because at the beginning of the year, he was coming off of arm surgery. People were wondering if he was a flash in the pan. Is he actually the 7th round pick? Is he a guy? Is he a product of the system? Who is Brock Purdy? And to this point, he hasn't given us any reason to believe that he's not the guy, which is what we were wondering about at the beginning of the year. So if you were a bit skeptical, which is understandable, I don't see how you couldn't feel better about their Super Bowl chances right now.
Well, I think the practical answer to that would be, at the beginning of the year, you thought we can get the number 1 seed, and now 10 games in, you need help. You're going to need some help, and you're going to have to beat Philly in Philly to get the number 1 seed. Maybe that would be a reason why somebody would feel less optimistic, because they thought the Niners would be 8-2 right now, or even 9-1. 888-957-9570 is the number. The San Francisco 49ers, they go to 7-3 with a 27-14 win over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Brock Purdy, he's been terrific the last 2 games, and it matters too, because he's coming off a 3-game losing streak, a team 3-game losing streak. But he looks He looked terrific again yesterday. Very, 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 very accurate.